critical situation we face can be represented with a few statements. There are 22 departments or agencies in the federal government. For 2012, the Department of Defense will receive over 50% of our federal discretionary budget, and the other 21 departments, education, health and human services, justice, and you notice the roads, have to split the other 50%. The taxpayers in Minnesota, you and I, will pay $4.1 billion for the total Iraq-Afghanistan war spending for 2011. $4.1 billion. And we're looking at a deficit of 5.2. Now, it doesn't seem so hard. It's 8.4 billion over the next 2 years is going to be extracted, which is already extracted for 2011 from our pockets. That 4.1 billion that will be taken from Minnesota taxpayers this year for the war in Afghanistan when they don't even want us, would have, and this will blow your mind, hired 66,230 elementary teachers for 1 year, or 62,000 police officers, and we're laying off teachers and police officers. Or it would have provided for our children here in Minnesota 564,026 Head Start slots. We have spent $1.2 trillion in Iraq and Afghanistan for the past 10 years. That is exactly the amount the universal health care for every American would have cost for that same 10 years, or for the next 10 if we finally get our out of there. Doesn't it over the door at the University of Virginia? An informed citizenry is vital for a democracy to persist. They don't want a democracy. They want a corporatocracy where corporations own governments and depend on the cooperation of bought and paid for politicians and media. Why wouldn't the super rich want to contribute to the common good of their brothers and sisters except for sheer greed and the fact that our politicians allow them? That's a mystery yet to be solved. But let's keep seeking the truth and letting the people in power know, we know, that money isn't the problem. It's the way they're choosing to spend it, and it's our money. In his famous 1967 Riverside Church, Martin Luther King said, "A nation that continues year after year to spend more on defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death." I think we're almost there, and only by everyone intensifying the struggle will we ever turn it around. And please remember, the arc of the universe does bend toward justice. Thank you very much.
Continue to push the state forward toward a government shutdown. For working and poor, disabled, and elderly Minnesotans, a government shutdown would be a far better outcome than these deadly cuts that the Republicans are trying to force down our throats. Republicans are acting like schoolyard bullies, threatening people of Minnesota with their deadly cuts and refusing to make the rich pay even one dime.
Even one dime.
The richest in Minnesota have not paid one dime for the past decade of budget deficits. While we have paid for the budget deficits with our blood, the wealthiest in Minnesota have not even paid one dime. In fact, they've only gotten richer and richer at the expense of poor and working Minnesotans. Look at the facts. If the governor's original proposal to raise taxes on the 5% of the population with the most income, it would result in over $3 billion. This signifies just how much the state of Minnesota has been losing in tax income year after year after year because the rich have not paid their fair shares and because of the massive tax breaks they've only benefited from. This is incredible, and it's also, the fact is the rich paid their if the rich paid their fair share of taxes, we would not even be in a budget deficit. We feel the rich should actually pay back the wealth that they have gained at our expense, and especially at this time at the budget crisis that we have. The Republicans, so we're saying that the governor must veto Senate File 760, which is the Health and Human Services Conference bill. He should veto it, plain and simple. Because it also vetoed because of the Minnesota Family Investment Plan. Families relying on public assistance to survive. They're going to be cutting 50% off of that grant if they have a person in their household with a disability. So if your family should also veto this bill because it eliminates general assistance. General assistance is the last lifeline for single adults and people waiting to get SSI disability. It's only $203 measly a month to pay for your rent and your expenses while you're waiting for a federal program. Now, with that being gone, people will have nothing. So he should veto this bill because it will cut general assistance. And also this bill has lots of bad cuts in Minnesota care and health care in general. It'll essentially cut children off of health care. It'll make people have to search out higher premiums for health care assistance, which they couldn't even afford in the first place. Minnesota Care is one of the programs that families rely on for affordable health care. So who should be paying for this budget crisis? The children living in deep poverty, or the rich who get big fat tax breaks and pay for stuff they already have in their pockets? We say that the rich should pay for this budget crisis. There should be no cuts to health and human services, no cuts to immigrants, no cuts to housing, no cuts to health care. The rich should be paying, and they should be paying big and fast, and that way we all live in this great state of Minnesota. Thank you.
Right across the board. The sickest of the sick, the poorest of the poor. Through no fault of their own. Tom White said so eloquently everything. The majority of the soldiers coming back are post-traumatic. They are issued. It was on the Time magazine had an issue. The secret weapon of the military is Prozac. I have talked to those returning vets. They're given Prozac and also amphetamines. And they're so wired and strung out they will be a while before they're even able to address their post-traumatic issues. I am raged with war. It's affected our family and personally. I'm here to speak for him because he's a no longer. And now I'll turn it over to the governor. Shout from the top. Shout from the top.
Shout from the top. Shout from the top. Shout from the top. Shout from the top. Shout from the top.
Those 40 hours of fasting, we know that are going to touch the hearts of these people. We not only brought our fasting to this building, but we brought our prayers and our faith. Because some folks out there are losing it. Some of them probably don't even have faith. That's why they're acting like that. So we brought our faith today, and we brought our prayers to our community. Outside the governor's office, outside the senator's chamber, and outside the representative's chamber. Sorry about that pronunciation. But we hope that we can change and put Minnesota back in the way it's supposed to go. Because all the issues that are affecting us this year, they're not only affecting black or brown or yellow or red. They are affecting Minnesotans abroad. And we need to keep coming back and fighting back and fighting back. And we probably will lose one battle, but we will win the war at the end. Amen.
We are a family. We all, each and every one of us, we all are God's creation. We have to stick together. We have to circle.